Hello everyone and welcome back to another adventure with Jimbo. So we've got an interesting one for you today. This is my good friend Jameson's second time ever spearfishing, and unfortunately for both of us it was pretty terrible conditions today, but we are on the hunt for some black grouper, and boy it was a challenging one. If you can't tell by that little snippet that I had slowed down, we're looking at some pretty high seas, some wind directly in our face, and some pretty awful visibility. This first spot is around 15 feet to the sand. We are out in the Gulf of Mexico, and if you can't tell by this clip right here, it is hard to see anything from the surface. These cameras kind of clear up the viz a little bit and give you another couple feet, but it is nasty today. We've got a little blue tang flying across the screen there, and pretty quick into the dive here, we find our target species. So I can tell that that guy's not a stud. He's not going on the wall as a trophy, but he is a keeper. He jumped into the coral maze there, and he's buried himself pretty deep. I've got this clip kind of running at a little bit quicker speed, just so you can follow through the process of what it's like tracking one of these guys down in a rock like this. These things can go for miles. It is pretty insane how maze-like these rocks set themselves up. I'm not sure if it's just a preferred style for the coral polyps to attach, but they definitely like these craggy rocks in the Gulf. I've also been through this area a few times before, so I kind of know what I'm looking for. I kind of know where the openings are in this rock here. But combing through these rocks can be one of the most effective ways to target these fish ever. Black grouper are very spooky fish. Once they see you, they kind of take off, and they give themselves a really false sense of security. Once they feel like they're camouflaged up and they feel like you can't see them anymore, they will often go into these holes and just lay there, do nothing. So it's very effective way to look for them. Just getting down in there with a flashlight and poking around. So I'm going to slow this next bit down. In the bottom section of the screen, you can actually see the pec fin and the jaw line of this black grouper as I'm looking through here. Right about there. Here's his pec fin and his jaw line. So once that fish is located, I like to put my flashlight down. We're trying to put Jameson on his first black grouper on spear, so that gives an indication to your other diver where they're looking. It's kind of hard to explain while you're on the surface that, hey, he's in that one hole down there, when that thing looks like a block of Swiss cheese covered in dust. So I like to set as much up as I can, letting the other diver know where their approach shot should be and how to set it up. If you saw on the surface there, Jameson had got away from me a little bit. he stopped swimming for 30 seconds to clear his mask, and he got blown way off the spot. There's definitely something to be said about gear familiarity when you're out. And in conditions like these where it's incredibly uncomfortable just being in the water in the first place, it helps to be very comfortable with your gear and your setup. I've been diving with my wetsuit, my mask and snorkel, and my fins for a very long time, so I'm very confident to get in pretty much anywhere. Jump in, check it out. So, after about 20 dives on this fish, I get in, I take a shot, and unfortunately, I couldn't exactly see where I was shooting. I thought that I was shooting directly at it, but my angle was incredibly off. I left this bit of the clip in here just to keep it real. But this is why we dive with multiple spear guns, and I keep a reel on my guns just in case something like this happens, you know. So this thing is kind of anchored into the rock and giving us more of a buoy location. And on a day like today where you can faintly see like a neon green flashlight from the surface in 15 feet of water. So this guy scooched way forward, and you can see his mouth right here as I'm looking down into that crack. So I blew like a 8 to 10 inch shooting window, and now I have probably like a 5 to 6 inch shooting window. It's pretty crazy how small a window these guys need to crawl into a hole like this, and he can fully push himself out through that hole as well. Definitely makes for a tricky shot though. With the current pumping like this, the spear gun that missed the first shot is kind of marking the spot for us.
The window of shooting is about this big, and it's on that gun down there. So, if you want to give it a shot, what you got to do is you're going to have to put your right shoulder on the ground, gun really far back, and hold the flashlight against the muzzle. If you look into that hole, his face is laying directly at the flashlight. So you're going to try to want to angle it in as hard as you can, just so you don't run it all the way down him. You're just trying to shoot him in the face somehow.
So I really have to give it to Jameson. He's a trooper for being willing to dive these conditions in the first place. But to do it while he's having gear malfunctions and kind of fighting his leg cramping a little bit is pretty crazy. We probably took 20 to 30 dives on this fish between him and I, me locating it and me trying to get him down to it. He swims back to the boat at some point here and chugs some electrolyte solution, and then we take about another 10 dives on it. He was able to get down and see the fish, but he just could not get his mask from fogging up, no matter what we did.
This is a ridiculously difficult hunt. I'm not gonna lie to you. Besides the visual condition?
I've chopped down this video enough to where It might seem like a lot because it definitely was. We hunted this fish probably for about an hour. Going up to the surface, breathing up for 30 seconds to a minute, then going down, checking it out, having Jameson swim down and locate the fish itself. I left the audio high for this clip because just a little indication of how windy it is exactly out here today. Now, if you can't see, he's touching his ears as we go down right here. He just started having issues clearing. And when you can't frenzel and equalize your ears, going past 10 feet can be very detrimental to your sinus and your entire ear system. So you really, really want to be careful with that. It is very serious no matter what. I myself have had some inner ear injuries, and they are never anything to mess with. So if you start feeling pressure and you're unable to clear, I highly recommend taking a moment, letting those pressures dissolve. So Jameson cleared me for the shot, so I went down and I found my mark. Usually after you pull the trigger and you see the shaft wiggle out like that, that is a pretty good confirmation that you did hit your target. I know that I connected with the head of this grouper. I wasn't exactly sure where, but I know that only from about its eyes forward were showing, so it was a good shot. When you're shooting grouper in holes like this as well, it is always beneficial to go for a headshot. It just allows you so much more control over the fish. I've been in many situations now where a side shot or mid-body shot can lead to some exasperated dives just 30-40 times trying to go down and pry that fish out. I got very lucky here, and on the second dive to retrieve this fish, he just slides right out. I'm not sure if this initial dispatch was just shallow. But when I went to bleed this guy, he definitely started kicking a little bit, and I went back in for a second dispatch shot. As a hunter and fisherman, I like to put these guys out of their misery as quickly as I can. Gets a little kick right here, and I didn't like that. Like I said, Jameson is quite the trooper. To swim blind in water this bad, you know, he definitely put in the effort today. I felt pretty bad that his ears started clogging up for him on the first spot.
And then I'll show you how to get in there.
So the opening to this cave is about like 8 inches to a foot at the widest point. And this guy is laying a full body length back in there, so probably like 7-8 feet into the back of this cave. I was able to locate him because his pec fin was sticking out, and I thought he was just the shadow and the darkness in the back of this cave because it's so deep. But turns out it was a nice keeper black grouper. Freediving is always super cool. It's the ocean equivalent of taking a walk in the woods and just interacting with your ecosystem. We used to find these all over the beaches when I was a kid. We don't see them much around anymore, but they are very cool individuals.
It's a sea hare.
A what?
A sea hare.
That's fucking.
It's a sea slug. Look at his little face. All right.
Slugs are super cool. Put this little guy back where I found him. Keep checking along this ledge, see if there's anything else of note before we continue this grouper hunt. And I just want to reiterate that it is incredibly hard to communicate where something is while you're diving. It's not like I can go down there with him and point and say, yeah, he's right here. It's really, really good to use the flashlight as a marker. I've been doing this for a little while now. I'm not the most experienced person in the world, but I definitely know what I'm looking for when I crawl up under a ledge looking for a grouper, snapper, any other kind of predatory fish that we like to eat here in Key West.
It's a deep ledge.
So sometimes I can see the light, and sometimes I can't.
Yeah.
Never use a flashlight underwater before.
You weren't far enough in too. Let me.
Take the backpack.
So you can see I'm about as far under that ledge as I can get to. Just kind of pointing that flashlight directly at that grouper. It is very hard to see back there. These cameras really do clear it up, and especially it's another like couple inches off of my mask on top of my head, so it can get a little further under that ledge than my actual point of view is from the eyes.
Did you see him?
Nah, he's not there.
No
I
way.
think so.
No way. looks like the dark. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Okay.
I'm gonna go back down there. Sorry. I'm gonna put this back in the ledge, pointed at him again.
Yeah.
And just, you don't have to try to make a shot on him or anything. Just go down there, let your eyes adjust, and you'll be able to spot his like pec fin that's facing out towards you a little bit.
Yeah, let me see if I can locate it first,
Yeah.
because then I can take a shot.
So I slowed this down just in case anyone's having some trouble locating him in the video as well. Just follow that beam of light, and you can see the outline of him against the sand, and that tan coloration in the back of that cave. Having some trouble sitting it on the rock. I also noticed when Jameson was going down to check this ledge the time before this, that he was not wearing a weight belt, which does make it rather difficult. When you are less than 30 feet, the weight belt helps you stay down a little bit more. Helps you not fight your buoyancy as much.
Hell yeah. All right, that's gun is wedged in there. So now that you see him and all that, I'm just gonna let you do what you do, man. If you need anything, I'll be right here.
Just in case this grouper has some other ideas, I decided to go down and pick up the other spear gun. Just in case Jameson made his shot, he went for a run or something. In case that grouper came out of the ledge and decided to take off, is what I meant by run. They ain't got no feet.
How'd it go?
I couldn't see him at time.
Uh-oh. Well,
if you're still watching at this point, I really have to thank you. I know that these aren't the most action-packed videos you've ever seen on YouTube, but I just want to keep it real and show you how many dives we actually had to put in on just 2 fish. It takes a lot of work doing stuff like this, especially for Jameson, it being his second time. This uses a lot of different muscles that you're not usually used to. He was fighting with some cramping earlier in the day, and this is probably realistically like 3 hours later, and he's still in the water. He's still taking dives. He's still trying to get down, locate this fish, and put a shot on it. So Jameson finds his mark, lets her fly. That ruffling noise lets me know that he hit his mark. The stoke is always real.
Now the fun part.
Yeah.
He really put that work in today to get that shot on this grouper. If you can't tell by this clip, I went back to the initial cave where we were hunting it from, and it was pitch black with sand. It can be very hard to locate these things once you've shot them, and
The bad news is
I understand.
pretty much
It's
right
gotta
where the
hurt
shaft
quite
is
a lot.
going to, there's a fairly large moray eel. So,
What? You didn't see that?
oh, I saw it. I just didn't tell you.
Well, I appreciate that.
So I locate the shooting line, and unfortunately it's leading back to the initial cave, but I know that the fish is on the other side of the gun. It kind of tells me that the shaft stuck in the back of that cave and the fish ran up the shooting line.
Do you know where you hit him?
In the darkness.
Okay.
I shot him in the foot. I saw his eyeball and I was like, alright, I know he's that direction.
Without knowing where you hit that fish, it's really hard to know how much pressure you can put on your shooting line when a fish does this. It can tear through very, very easily if you put too much pressure on it. So this is a patience game here. Locating that fish, figuring out how to wedge it out from under the rocks. And in hindsight, I should not have put any pressure on it at all. I should have just let the sand kind of dissipate here and get a better visual on that fish before doing anything. As well as letting the gun go a little bit. I opened the reel here to release the tension and pull the gun to the surface. I should have left it tight. That buoyancy of the gun would have helped us out tremendously there to keep that fish from pushing back into the cave any further. I mean, if it really wanted to, it could have, but anything helps in a situation like this, just to keep pressure on it and keep it at the opening of this cave here instead of having it dig under. One of the dangers and the things that I really don't ever want to have to face, I know it'll happen one day, but is leaving a grouper that's wounded in a cave to perish, unfortunately. It's not something that I've had happen yet. We've had some really close calls over the last year or two where, you know, after about 100 dives, it's really not looking good. And then we've found different angles and different approaches, and some creative thinking has really gotten us out of a bind, you know, using gaffs, other guns to place shots and pull the initial shot out.
The problem is, the shaft is stuck in that original cave, and he's run up the shooting line and wedged himself back in another portion of the ledge.
Some people are really immune to those moon jellyfish that I just caught on my hand. I'm unfortunately not. It's about 3 weeks after this incident, and I've still got a nice little line of welts on my right wrist. So here I go, messing up again and putting more tension on that shooting line when I shouldn't have.
Don't stick your hand in that hole. That's exactly where I saw that eel. But I could see his tail fluttering when I just went down to look at that.
Let me see if the flashlight, I'm gonna go in the original hole, see if I can see.
All right.
I'm still pretty new to spearfishing in the grand scheme of things. I've been doing it since I was younger. probably like 15, and I'm around 30 now. But I've only seriously been spearfishing since around 2020. It is a lot going on at all times between trying to hold your breath, hunting and accuracy, and everything involved with it. So having guys like Jameson out here that are incredibly new to spearfishing, I'm trying not to teach anyone wrong, but you know, things happen while you're out there. I like to say that I get better with every dive. I get more comfortable with my equipment every single time I'm out on the water doing my thing. You know, you have your good days where you go out and you slay fish and everything's super awesome, and then you have your bad days, and I like to call those learning days. You learn a lot more from doing things wrong than just getting lucky and doing everything right, you know. I also got incredibly lucky here, and I was able to use the shooting line to wiggle the shaft back and forth in that cave. And I was able to retrieve it pretty easily, as I was not looking forward to having to crawl all the way in that cave. It gets a little dicey sometimes when both your stomach and back are wedged into a hole and you're working with something down there. You can very easily get stuck. Even I'm prone to panicking sometimes, so I like to avoid that as much as I can, and thankfully came loose very, very easily. I do not recommend crawling in the caves, by the way. Unless you're a very, very experienced freediver, it can get dangerous extremely quickly. Like we've mentioned, you can't exactly talk underwater, so communication with the surface can be very dodgy.
All right.
What happened? Come out.
And now we play the game.
So I'm not sure what's going on here. Got to do some research. I think maybe the gasket on my dive housing is failing, but we have a slow creep of fog over the lens here. I apologize for that. It's not your computer, it's me. Slow this down right here. So that's the shooting line going in one side and coming out the other side of the grouper right there. You can see its tail. Checking for Mr. Eel. He's gone. So the plan here is that Jameson is going to swim down and put his hands on that fish and try to pull it back and out of the ledge. I'm going to go down to the other side and pull with a little tension on the shooting line. I do the worst thing possible here, and I put too much tension on the shooting line, and I pull it completely clear, leaving it 100% up to Jameson to get that fish out. And he holds out for another extra couple seconds and pries that fish out with everything he's got. I've never seen anybody pull a free grouper out of a ledge like that. That was really cool. Really tough. I gotta give it to him.
Oh my god!
The stoke is real, man. So I just double checked that fish is dispatched. It's not feeling any more pain after it's been hanging out with a wound in that cave for a little while.
Sure.
Let me grab that net.
Really proud of my friend for sticking it out, putting the dives in, being tenacious with it, and securing his fish. Super awesome. It's a day I'll never forget. On the way back to the boat, had a little bonus fish action. Saw a really nice mangrove swim out from under a ledge. I came over to check him out. He was acting super calm. I really wanted to wait here and take a really nice shot at this guy. He looked perfect sandwich size, and I did not want to miss out. But we had two very nice grouper in the boat at this point, so we're not exactly hurting for fish. I definitely got a little bit greedy here. I don't often get more than one shot, but this guy came out, went over the flats, and then for some reason came right back in to check me out a second time. That was it for him. Being newer to filming, I definitely did something that you shouldn't do here, and I caught my GoPro on the lip of this ledge as I was coming up, so I flooded this pretty bad. I like to get a handle on my fish as quickly as I can usually, and put a dispatch shot on them with the brain shot and the bleed. But I had to readjust my eyeballs first because I couldn't see a thing. With the thrashing fish going off, it's a little nerve-wracking no matter what you're doing. While I was dealing with that fish, that made some other nice snapper come in as well. I know it's a little foggy and it's a little hard to see here, but I left it in. Just channeling my inner steel rocket here and trying to dual wield spear guns. It was not meant to be. Thank you so much for coming along on the adventure. This is a work in progress, and with everything it comes with time, but I appreciate yours more than anything. We're going to be dropping new episodes every third Thursday of the month at 6 p.m. And if you don't mind and you have a moment, if you subscribe to the channel, that helps support the dream. It helps support the next adventure, and it keeps me going. If there's anything you want to see me record or do, drop it in the comment section down below. And if there's something you liked or disliked about the video, do the same. You know, from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of my gear basket, thank you so much for your time. We'll see you on the next adventure.